almost just over 2 years ago now, Connor and I covered this. Saudi Arabia's plan to build a great big line in the desert as a sort of weird dystopian, I don't know what it is really, a living arrangement, a city. It's weird to call it a city when it's a great big line, but we called it Saudi Arabia's rat utopia because everyone was living on top of each other in a sort of 15-minute city, and they were talking about 2030, and it was all a bit World Economic Forum-y. And this was all the way back in August of 2022, and I wanted to have a look at where it's at 2 years on, just over. And so just to give you a little bit of information, you can see all of the sort of concepts that they were throwing around at the time and what was involved. But the line is said to be 200 metres wide, or 656 foot, and 170 kilometres, or 106 miles long. That's how big they want to make it.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, of course it's ridiculous.
That's like the whole Arabian Peninsula, isn't it? Or something?
Is
No,
it
it's
like
not
that?
that far, but still.
It's a decent portion of it, yeah.
Is it mirrored as well, like that?
I think so. So a great big mirror in the desert, that's going to go down well, isn't it?
But do you remember the walkie-talkie in London?
Yeah, it's
well, I say remember, it's still there. But that wasn't even mirrored like that, but it acted as some sort of giant evil death ray and was like melting cars and things.
Well,
so surely that
it's going to be covered in glass all around. It's going to turn all the sand.
Yeah, that's going to just...
One big oven, really.
Yeah.
There's going to be wildlife getting charred alive. Yeah. You know, wind turbines chop seagulls into little bits. You know, they're not all bad. That's going to do the same thing with lots of different wildlife. It's going to be like holding a giant magnifying glass to ants.
Yeah.
But it's going to cost 1.5 trillion US dollars.
Oh, okay.
Just a
measly.
Cool 1.5 trillion. And it was expected to house 1.5 million people by 2030. And now it is expected to house 300,000 people. So yes, that's a bit of a downgrade, isn't it? But they're still shooting for that 1.5 million eventually, just not by 2030. It's also worth mentioning as well, if you're not going to work in this horrible line dystopia, we are hiring a production administrator. So if you know anything about production administration, which I don't, so I can't really tell you much about it, we have a page here, which I've unintentionally sabotaged. Here are the responsibilities. Here are the skills. You can pause the video and read those if you wish. If you fit the bill and want to work in Swindon for some reason, you can apply for this. You will be sharing an office with everyone at Lotus Eaters, so I'm sorry about that. It's just one of the parts of the job. And yeah, make sure to apply for that. So, back to the line. Here it is. This is one of the concepts.
Of that.
This is the concept of it. This is like someone's given a 5-year-old...
like a long ruler.
Yeah. Some sort of design skills or something like that. We're just going to build a big line city. I know city skylines is fun and everything, but you don't need to do this sort of thing. Even there, it doesn't work.
I'm sure you'll get onto it, but is there any utility in it? Is there a reason for it? Other than to just
probably
be avant-garde?
environmentalism or something mental like that. It's got to be. I think it is.
I think the idea is, because there's no cars involved, the transportation is just going to span in one big line.
Right.
I think that's the idea. It's in a line because that's what's most efficient for the public transport.
Okay.
Which is interesting. But here's another concept picture. It's basically going to be 2 mirrors, and you're going to live inside the mirrors, and then there's going to be greenery in the inside of this presumably very cool thing. Maybe it's mirrored to keep the insides cold because it's the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. But the idea is it's going to look... this is another part of it, sorry. So this is a sort of subterranean thing. I thought it was underwater from the filters on it. But they're also going to be building stuff underground as well. For some reason. It looks like a Halo map for some reason. And here's another one of inside the line.
Dreadful.
I would like it if they had that much greenery. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
It's like I Am Legend, but like awful, or District 9, but it's just it's just as bad.
They're trying to go for a sort of Gardens of Babylon style thing, maybe.
It reminds me of a more verdant Mega City 1 from Judge Dredd. But like, do you know what I think it is? Like the Burj Dubai, or the Burj Khalifa, whatever it's called, you know, that biggest building in the world. The Arabs or people from the Emirates got effectively endless money and no taste.
More money than sense, yeah.
So they go to a design company and say, design us something sort of quote-unquote brilliant and cutting edge or edgy and avant-garde, whatever you want. And yeah, we've got endless money to throw at it. And someone at the very top in the Saudi Arabian royal family, I imagine, gave it this lion city the green light. But the problem is, obviously, it's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at some more pictures. So here's another one. This one looks very different than the past one. Perhaps a little bit more realistic in that it doesn't look like it's overgrown. I mean, you're going to have a city full of gardeners to keep that other one going.
Yeah, how many gardeners are they going to employ for this? Or is it all artificial?
So, it's a nice concept. It's a little bit idealistic.
A mall.
It does a little bit, doesn't
Autumn's going to look terrible.
And here's another one. This one really does look like a Halo map here.
Blade Runner.
It does, yeah.
Side of the Death Star.
It does, yeah. I think you can see Darth Vader. Oh no, that's just a woman in a bucket. And here's another one. This, is this? I forgot what that name is now. Is it Destiny? The one.
Oh yeah.
It kind of looks a bit like that, doesn't it? I've not even played it, so I don't know.
I don't understand this though. So you get views, but I thought it was one big line.
Yeah,
I think they've also got these other projects that connect to the line. So you've got like a hotel and there's like a mariner. They're building an island and all sorts of things. I'm just giving a sort of quick overview because we went into all the details and the plans 2 years ago, and I think they're trying to stick to those. Here's another one. Here's a hotel. This looks very Dune-like,
This
doesn't
does
it?
look like Dune, yeah.
Particularly that
Star
one in the
Wars,
middle.
Tatooine.
It does, yeah. Yes, the Sand people are easily startled, but they assume you're back in greater numbers.
I think in the middle looks like a termite mound.
It does a little
It's
bit.
horrible. That is horrible.
Yes.
It is a bit garish, isn't it?
The problem with these things, you're still in the middle of the Arabian desert, one of the most inhospitable places in the world.
You've presaged what I was actually going to look at here. So, can we tell the difference between Mars and the site in which they're building this?
Top right was definitely Mars. I recognise that.
Yes.
one's
This one I would say is Saudi Arabia because it's got grass on it. That's a pretty easy one. This next one, that's Mars. I recognise the picture.
I'm going to say Mars.
Yeah, I don't have the answers here. I think it's probably Mars. This one has a man,
be
not in a
Mars.
spacesuit.
Got to be Mars.
That's a Martian there.
Yeah.
This is what NASA doesn't want you to know, right? And the point being that it's not a very hospitable place. If you do visit this city, you do live there, you go for a walk, you're going to need a whole host of equipment. You're going to need like a desert suit. You're going to need to know about sandworms.
Still suit, yeah. Now you're immediately in a survival situation if you walk outside the Lion City. Great. That's what everyone wants, right?
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous,
It's
isn't
like
it?
the outback in Australia. There's a reason why
It's true.
loads of things built there, loads of infrastructure. It's not a good idea.
Yeah,
Not a good idea.
there's nothing there because no one wants to live there. And to be fair, closer to the coast, where a lot of the development's going on, it does look a bit more habitable. There's water there, although still, it doesn't look particularly nice, does it?
I'm feeling odd just looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's accounts of people going to Jeddah. Like, look, I knew I'd bring up Lawrence of Arabia sooner rather
Here we
than later.
go.
Of course.
But you're
Get this
going to
elephant out of the room.
Jeddah, which is obviously in Saudi Arabia on the coast, on the Hijaz. Just even for people that are used to living in Egypt, it's sort of horribly hot. It's very, very difficult to live and survive there. There's a few places in the world, isn't there? Like Phoenix, Arizona is one of the hottest places. And again, if you don't have aircon everywhere, if you're not used to it, it's a difficult place.
Is that where Death Valley is? In America?
Death Valley is
I
in
think that's
Nevada.
It's Nevada.
Yeah, but it's the same part of the world.
Right.
Absolutely the same part of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's lots of places in the world where if you don't know what you're doing, you're in trouble quite quickly, aren't there? There are obviously very, very, very cold places like northern Norway.
Fact check live. Apparently, according to Google, at least, Death Valley is in California.
Oh, is it?
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
I always thought it was Nevada. Oh, I stand corrected.
It's in the northern Mojave Desert. There we go. So Yes, we do fact check ourselves at Lotus Eaters. And
You know there would be a fedora tipping actually guy out there. You know there would be.
Actually.
it makes us good at our craft, that sort of thing. So one of the first news stories to come out of this I found quite amusing. So one of the bosses of this project was accused of racism, misogyny and corruption.
Here we go.
I thought it would have been racism, misogyny and sexism, but no, it's a new word, this time.
So a Saudi guy was accused of racism?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's the Westerners they've shipped in to build it.
Right, sure.
So
Brilliant.
I'm going to read a little bit about this because he said some things that are very offensive and definitely not funny. Okay, I don't want to hear it. No laughing. You're not allowed to laugh at what he says because it's obviously very offensive, right? Of course, you can't laugh. Okay, so Wayne Borg is the guy who said this. He's the managing director of the media. And I'm going to read from this article. In one incident, after 3 workers on the project had died, Borg said, "A whole bunch of people die, so we've got to have a meeting on Sunday night." Okay, bit frustrated perhaps that they've got to have a meeting about it. And then he went on to call a South Asian migrant worker at Neom an effing moron, adding, "That is why white people are at the top of the pecking order."
Oh.
I heard that, Samson. I'm sure that was just a cough. The comments were made on a phone call, and the audio of which was obtained by the Wall Street Journal. I don't know why the Wall Street Journal's trying to rat out people working on projects in Saudi Arabia. In another conversation regarding the workers' deaths, Borg said, "You can't train for stupidity, and the white blokes are at the top of the tree." In a separate incident, Borg was summoned by Human Resources after calling a black female employee a black S.
Right.
And in a message to the employees in question, Borg reportedly said, "I miss you, and your arse is better than Beyonce's," with kiss emojis, according to a summary of the employees' grievances. In a meeting about the incident, Borg referred to that effing episode I have with that black B word. And
There's a lot of cohesion in the workplace then.
and there's one final thing. According to other audio clips, Borg referred to women from the Gulf as transvestites and made lewd jokes about Islam and sexual positions. So there we
Samson's
go.
cracking up if the mics aren't picking that up. Our producer's actually cracking up. It seems like a guy who's just off the leash, doesn't care what he says.
Well, he's in Saudi
Maybe.
Arabia. There's no hate speech laws.
Right.
Well, not like those ones anyway.
Yeah. Still, you never know when the New York, what was it, the New York Times?
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. You never know when the Wall Street Journal is
Will
been
pounce
tapping
on
your
you.
phone. You never know. They're probably all the time, isn't it? Everyone's
I wouldn't be
phone.
surprised.
Wall Street Journal.
So they've replaced this guy now with someone called Michael Lynch, not the one that you know, the British one. He's some other guy. He's a veteran of arts and culture and an executive of some kind. Isn't the one that in Britain to do with the railways or unions or something like that? Something commie.
Mike Lynch, I don't know.
But anyway, that's not the only controversy that they faced. Saudi forces are told to kill people who refuse to move from the land that the line's going to be in. And apparently, they've already killed one person who refused to move. They just shot them. Which,
Mostly peaceful eco project then.
it is, yes, and it's good for the environment. Not randomly, but shooting people who don't want to be kicked out of their homes for a vanity project.
Well, that's a classic House of Al Saud.
Mm.
Again, back in the very beginning of the 20th century, there was all sorts of basically a 3 or even 4-way sort of civil war between various what were then Bedouin tribes of Saudi Arabia, and the House of Al Saud just happened to win essentially. But yeah, completely cutthroat warlord killer types. So
the interesting thing,
that's nothing.
the interesting thing here is lots of Westerners are sort of going to be penned to be moved into these projects because, of course, there's the line and the other things as well. Sort of these influencer types and celebrities and things like that. And of course, they're going to be moved into these nice, modern, futuristic facilities built on the skeletons of the dead residents of the peninsula, which sort of casts a bit of a bad light on the whole thing, that people have to be shot after they're moved out of their homes to build this madness.
Are you allowed to drink in there?
I don't know.
Because obviously
That's a good point.
Muslim countries are dry, but usually in the Emirates or Qatar or something, if you're in the hotel or whatever, you're allowed to still. I think that's what a lot of Westerners, Europeans anyway, that's one of their first questions.
Yeah, what sort of laws are going to be? Is it? Well, I'm guessing it would be the same.
I would
Saudi
say
Arabia
so,
law.
yeah. Well, I think it's a way to get people sort of invested in Saudi Arabia. 'Cause
Yeah.
of course, they want to move away from oil, and so they want to turn into a tourism hub. But if you look at the average temperatures of Saudi Arabia, I don't see that catching on.
No.
A lot of Europeans don't necessarily like Saudi Arabian level heat, and they have been moving people in eventually. But here's a picture of the construction. Oh, here we go. Just a fleet of diggers digging in barren wasteland.
Brilliant.
Whereabouts actually is it in Saudi Arabia? Do you know?
I'll be going to
Okay, all right.
at the very end. I'll be going to a map, and you can actually see the line carved into the earth from the satellite
Alright.
from Google Earth. And here's a video. I'm not going to, play the audio to save you, but here's someone moving into. This isn't actually the line itself, as you can see. It's not a line. It is what amounts to a Holiday Inn hotel looking thing, but this is the village for the people involved in constructing it. And this has been doing the rounds, and lots of people have been saying, well, the line looks very different. It's not actually the line. It's people being moved in. But if this is what the construction village that's meant to entice these Western titans of industry that are going to create this epoch-defining structure looks like, then it's not going to be that good, really. It looks like a generic Western hotel.
She better not be caught outside without a bloke with her,
Well,
or a head uncovered. She better walk behind him.
I think for these villages, because they're just European strongholds, basically.
She doesn't have to
Have
worry
their
about
own-
driving, I guess.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they have it all within walking distance, funnily enough, which they've sort of accounted for that. And here's another one. It's sort of showing her evening in the desert as this mother. I think her husband must be working on the project, and she's sort of a stay-at-home wife, which, fair enough. Looking after her kids. Can't fault her for that. Well done, if anything. But this is what's being shared about the project at the minute. This is what is circulating. It just looks like a regular Western hotel at the minute. From, obviously they're not going to put all of their effort into the construction village,
Gosh.
but there's nothing really to write home about. There's some fancy lifts perhaps, but it's not that interesting.
They're kafir, right? They're non-believers, aren't they? I mean, is it really the right land for them to be in?
Well, it's interesting, It's,
Office looks like,
Oh.
and Hanson was.
sorry, I'm going to mute that quickly. But you get the idea. There's hardly anyone around as well, which I found interesting. Like, it's basically empty. It's sort of for show. It has a sort of North Korean vibe, where there are various people sort of milling about, sort of making it look busy, but a lot of things are set up for the Westerners to be nice. But you can see actual Saudi Arabians knocking about in the background there. So maybe it's just a bad time to video it.
Clinical. It's too clinical. Because you see these types of hotels and places anyway. Sometimes even in, I guess you could argue, like in the UK, you see these types of cul-de-sacs or blocks, new builds. It's too clinical. There's no life to it. There's nothing. It's just you're taking something with no life and then just plonking it somewhere with hot weather.
It's not bad. It's not awful. It's
No.
just a little bit bland, isn't it? A
Just
bit
bland.
lifeless,
Yeah, it's lifeless.
And I mean, for a construction village, I suppose it's not too bad. So you can't really fault it. But I wanted to show it and sort of correct some of the narratives. And she does confirm here on her TikTok that I hate that I have to say that that it's the construction camp and not the actual city itself.
A Potemkin construction camp.
Look at how clinical that looks.
To
Yeah,
be
but
honest,
here it is.
we're being really rude about it. I'd probably rather live there than Swindon.
Oh, it's not even close.
Right.
Well,
I'm
Swindon-
less likely to get stabbed there for no reason than in Swindon town centre.
Swindon
so,
feels a bit like Jeddah these days, anyway, doesn't it?
well, yeah, quite.
And here's one construction camp. Here's another one side by side. So you can kind of see that this is what's being the sort of social media posts and the influencers being flown in are showing the lifestyle on the camp. That's what's going on. And you can see they've got like sports fields and there's some swimming pools up there maybe. That it doesn't look that bad. It's okay. It's just a bit soulless and bland. It's sort of a bit like Dubai, right? People perhaps might like to visit, but it is sort of taking the worst artificial aspects of Western society and making it all about that, isn't it? It's sort of very consumerist, very artificial, very superficially neat and tidy and nice, but there's no soul to it.
Even just looking at it, from the videos to the giant magnifying glass running along the peninsula, for me, I'm getting cabin fever even just looking at it. Like, you're just so boxed in, and it just, oh no, don't go outside. No, you don't go out of the area. It's unsafe, or it's dangerous.
It has been pointed out as well, there are 6 cricket grounds, so that might well be for the foreign workers they're bussing in, because a certain type of person the Saudis usually fly in to do a lot of their construction, and those people tend to really like cricket. And spoiler alert, it's not the English. Just throwing that one out there.
6 though.
Yes. That's interesting, isn't it?
Only ever need 1 at a time.
But
maybe 2 at absolute most. 6 is silly.
Since she posted these videos, her account has gone private. And if you search her name, it did come up in the searches, but you can't actually watch these anymore. I imagine she's probably been told by the Saudis not to post because it's received criticism. So you can see you can't view them anymore since they've been searched. And there have been other people as well. I'm just going to have a look at some pictures. There you go. Another lady wearing a lot of makeup, wandering around. Very it looks sort of like if someone were to create a sort of sci-fi version of an American suburb.
It's like something out of Edward Scissorhands.
But yeah, it's a similar sort of thing. Here they are, people sort of selling the lifestyle of people moving out there. And
saw the words climate crisis. I was like, just switched off.
Here's a BBC journalist, a sports journalist. I think she also works for other publications, sort of doing a photo op here, outside of it, trying to make it look all glamorous.
Very candid.
You're allowed to show that much neck, arm and ankle?
I don't
good
think
question.
so.
Are you really allowed to do that?
Good question.
And because we've been very mean, I thought it'd be nice to try and find something that makes it look nice.
The roads?
Yeah.
In the morning when
I don't want the horrible pop music though, sorry. There we go.
Oh, there's a burger van.
Yeah, they've got plenty of those here.
Yeah.
But despite looking very empty relative to the infrastructure, it doesn't look terrible. That's a nice sunset. You've got to give it that.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
I'm sure that greenhouse is going to be lovely in
the
Saudi sun. But there we go. And
if I had enough friends and family, I probably would rather live there than Rumford.
There's even moisture there on the street. I mean, yeah, it just would probably get a little bit boring after a while, wouldn't it? I mean, after you get bored of cricket, Dino heaven.
Dino heaven.
That's what Samson says. And I think it's sort of like Dubai in that if you're sort of new money, you can afford to go on holiday and you don't mind vapidity, then it might be a nice place to go. But I wanted to end off the segment, just have a quick look. So it's sort of the Saudi Arabian counterpart to the Sinai Peninsula here. So you might be able to start seeing where the line is. Where is it? So it's a bit easier to see it here.
That's where it is.
And you can see, there you go, the line. There we go. And you can see it going all the way along here. So this is one of the other projects that they're doing down here. They're doing, I think it's an island hotel thing.
Gosh.
And it looks a little bit grim and dense, personally. But it's meant to be a sort of playpen for billionaires where they can park their yachts up in the big dock and have an island where they can have everything catered for. There's another one here.
Another one.
Yeah.
Roll out again.
This one looks a little bit nicer.
In relation to the actual Red Sea.
Give you a good
Sharm el Sheikh is just across the road. You might as well go there instead.
So it's going to be like along here. You can sort of see the line. It's a shame that the quality's not great. But you can follow it along.
Yeah, I can see.
And then it goes through here, and then it goes through the mountains.
Really massive.
Yeah.
It really is.
And they're only getting a couple of 100,000 now instead of the millions.
Well, 300,000. Yeah, you can see here they're digging out the foundations because, it's, 500 meters tall? So it's going to need some big foundations. They're also digging through what is effectively mountains. To give you an idea, this is the sort of terrain that they're digging around.
A giant
rock, yeah. So, yes, it seems like one of the biggest vanity projects in human history.
Yeah.
You can zoom in and see what's going on. Obviously, this was taken at some point in 2024. I'm not sure when it was, so it might be further along now. But you can see effectively just a line in the sand is what it is now.
It's a fishing spot. Nice.
Oh, yeah, let's have a
You
look.
can't go there because you're in the line.
That looks all right, to be fair. You know, a bit of a trek from the line. You'll probably die of exposure by the time you get to the fishing spot, but there we go.
As long as you're not caught, holding hands or kissing your fiance or wife or girlfriend or anything, because of course then you're in trouble.
That's true. But what do you reckon? Good idea? Bad idea?
Terrible.
It's absurd. Of course, absurd.
Terrible.
Would you
hate
visit?
it?
The thing is, you remember they tried to do the sea reclamation thing in the Emirates?
Oh, it went
Where
terribly,
you
didn't
fill
it?
in the sea and make little fake islands, completely artificial
Oh,
islands.
right.
And for a while, lots of rich people, like footballers and stuff, would buy one up before it's even been built, because they thought it would be some of the best real estate in the world. It would be so desirable. And then it turns out that it's not at all, because no one wants to live there.
No.
They've got to continue to dump sand on it to keep it even staying there.
And who really wants to live ultimately in the Emirates or in an Islamic country if you're not a Muslim? Who wants that? It's really repressive. You can put all the pretty ladies in makeup and summer dress that you want, but we all know the reality is it's a very repressive regime. So no one wants to live there, really. I mean, even LA, there's the old joke, like, no one wants to live in downtown LA. There's nothing to do downtown. Right. So even LA, right? People, even San Francisco, until fairly recently, a paradise city. But now it's a bit crappy and literally shitty. So everyone's just flooding away. No one wants to live there now. So in order to make people flood somewhere in hundreds of thousands or in a million people, it has to be genuinely desirable. And the middle of Arabia isn't.
I wholeheartedly agree. But I thought it'd be good to have an update on this because I've been keeping an eye on it for years now, and I will be keeping an eye on it continuing into 2030 at this point, because I don't think it's going to get to its target. I don't think there's going to be many people living in it in 6 years' time, to be honest.
Should go there.
Because if it's just a line in the sand
Yeah.
at the minute.
Should go there with a GoPro.
Yeah, Carl, make it happen. But yeah, there's your update. It looks bad.
Hi folks, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that segment, and if you did, you can go and get issue 2 of Islander magazine from shop.lotus.com. It's available all across the world and of course contains the cutting edge of right-wing thought and the most relevant aesthetics you'll see anywhere. While you're at it, come and follow us over on Twitter, X, at _Lotus_com, and I'll see you next time.